Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy live with Shanghai Daily, coming to you from Shanghai, China. Obviously, as you can see there, live view of Lujiazui, which is Shanghai's financial district, on Tuesday, May 10, 2020. We've got an action-packed show for you guys today. Coming up, obviously, we'll share the latest numbers, but just quickly, 204 symptomatic and 2,780 asymptomatic cases with 5 community infections. That represents an overall drop of nearly a quarter, which is good news. In case you didn't know, some of Shanghai's subways were still running, but now they've been suspended completely. So it was completely shut down at 1 a.m. Tuesday and will remain closed until further notice. We have some quarantine fears that have been clarified a little bit from the government in terms of what constitutes a close contact. We'll speak with our colleague Yang Jian, and also some fears about home disinfection rules, which have also been clarified. That will only happen in the homes of positive cases, and residents will be able to sort that all out for themselves. But we'll speak with our colleague Yang Jian about that shortly. But first up, my co-host Alex, how is it going?
All right, not bad. As you can see here on the screen, a really sort of overcast, dreary kind of day today. You know, I've obviously throughout this time in lockdown been lamenting the fact that the weather has been by and large pretty great, but no FOMO today. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine. FOMO, of course, meaning the fear of missing out. Not what Emma was talking about food orders, but just the general original FOMO term. And I guess one positive about this is that there's really not a whole lot of FOMO going on for me or for any of us, because there's really just nothing happening in the city at all. And so FOMO, there's really no fear of missing out on anything because there isn't anything happening to miss out on. So I guess, you know, and I wouldn't call that like something to be positive about, but it's, you know, something to not be negative about. Normally when I'm staying in my house on a weeknight, I'm always thinking, oh, what are my friends doing tonight? I have a little bit of FOMO, but there's none of that happening right now, at least.
Oh, well, that's good. You're not missing out. And like you said, it does look like a bit of a cloudy evening out, although I do quite like the weather like this. It's cooled down a bit. Currently in Shanghai, actually, I'll bring up the weather. It is sitting on 20 degrees Celsius, and if you need Fahrenheit, it's about 68. The humidity was quite high today, so a tiny little bit muggy, but really nice crispy weather if that's what you're into, which I happen to be, as you can see there with the view of Lujiazui, which is coming to us live thanks to our friends over at Kankan Shinwen or K News, which is pretty awesome. But Alex, as I mentioned before, we have some clarifications of sorts coming up that have come from the government in terms of 2 fears that people had recently. The first being there was some accounts of people who were negative being taken away to central quarantine because there was a case found in their building. Now, if you remember, that hinged on the legal question of what constitutes a close contact. So we have some clarification coming up very shortly, and also about those home disinfection fears. We saw some videos online of places absolutely drenched with chemicals. So yeah, we will find out about that too. So without further ado, let's bring in our colleague Yang Jian, who is going to answer some of these questions for us. Yang Jian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. Now, I was just mentioning we had some news that will no doubt relieve many people, which is some clarification from the central government in regards to residents of entire buildings being taken to quarantine over one case. Can you fill us in on what the latest is there from the government?
Yes. Maybe the official announcement from the city government can make many people feel relieved. And during the QA session of the press meeting in the morning, the deputy director of the city's disease control and prevention center firstly answered this question about whether entire residential buildings will be put under central quarantine if a positive case is detected. And he said only people living together with a positive case is counted as close contacts and will be put under central quarantine. But that should be under 2 conditions. First, the positive case had been staying at home all the time. And the second, the apartment has private kitchen and a toilet. And if both conditions can be met, people living on the same floor or above or below the positive case will be considered only the secondary contacts. And according to stipulation, secondary contacts can undergo home quarantine if they have fixed a place to live in the city or they live alone or with family members separately. And the official said one exception is uh, when the positive case lives in these old residential compounds that share a kitchen or bathroom with their neighbors, then everyone living on the same floor will be deemed as close contacts and put under central quarantine. And even under such condition, other residents live up or downstairs are still considered as secondary contacts and can receive home quarantine at home. So in summary, the CDC official basically denied that positive case, uh, one positive case will put a whole building under central quarantine. And in most cases, people living in the same building will be deemed as secondary contacts and can receive home quarantine. And only in the older compound with shared facilities, mainly in the city's late style or Stonegate houses, where then people living on the same floor will be defined as close contacts because they once shared toilets or kitchens with the positive case, and others in the same building are still the secondary contacts. And the official explained that more than 90% of Shanghai's new infections come from these old residential compounds and old lane-style neighborhoods. So, which is also why the city's daily infection number is decreasing very slowly nowadays. So, strict measures must be taken on these key areas. And however, the official also said those are just the basic principles for the definition of close and secondary contacts. And a comprehensive assessment will be made according to the on-site investigations and the risk evaluations of the epidemiological service staff. And the CDC Vice Director also explained the definition of close contacts of COVID cases. And he said a close contact is people who have had unprotected close contact with confirmed asymptomatic or suspected cases within 4 days before they showed symptoms or receive a PCR test. And those who have been exposed to a potentially contaminated environment were also defined as the close contact. And according to stipulation, close contacts will be central quarantined for 2 weeks and given 7 PCR tests, and another week of home quarantine will follow the central quarantine. And secondary contacts are those who live, study, or work together with the close contacts. And they must undergo a week of home quarantine and another week of health observation. So basically, 2 weeks at home, the same as the stipulation for the city's locked down areas. Andy.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good information because I know this is something that a lot of people have been talking about. And then another issue that people have been seeing, different videos and different things that have information that's been floating around. We wanted to ask you to help us clarify is the mandatory home disinfections. We did see some videos showing homes, allegedly showing homes just completely drenched in chemicals, wet floors, every single part of the apartment being drenched in chemicals. What can you tell us about that and how that sort of works, just for some clarity?
Yeah, that is maybe another news that can make many people feel relieved because the city's housing authority that takes charge of the COVID disinfection campaign just clarified that home infection is only for the positive cases, not the close contacts or other risky groups. And he said there is only one exception. That is also the old residential compounds with shared kitchens and bathrooms, but only the shared facilities that the positive case once used will undergo a disinfection. And he said there are also strict rules and training for the disinfection professionals, and they must follow a certain procedure to finish the home disinfection. And for instance, at first, they must fully communicate with the families and for their understanding and cooperation. And citizens are also allowed to tell the staff whether there is belongings sensitive to disinfectants or need special care or protection during the home disinfection. And the disinfection team must make a work record for for future inspection, and the whole disinfection process must be under supervision and evaluation of another specialist. And after they finish the job, they also must release a notice in the community to tell the details of this home disinfection. And to ensure the standard operation, the official also said that the city's disease control authority will launch random checks on the disinfection services every day. And the inspectors will mainly check the ratio of disinfectants, the tools they use, and the whole process. Alex.
Awesome, Yang Jian. Thank you so much. A lot of interesting information there. And it seems that they're really putting pressure on old residential compounds. Of course, people are sharing a lot of spaces there. So it's good to know. Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you again same time tomorrow.
See you.
Alex, a lot of information there to take in. I noticed that people in the same building with a positive case may be seen as secondary contacts, which means they can quarantine at home instead of being media, so primary contacts. And also, as I just mentioned, old residential compounds with shared facilities, tough situation there. Oh, Alex, you're on mute.
My apologies. Didn't want to interrupt Young Jin there with some noise happening in my place. Anyway, so what I was saying is I feel like that's been the case throughout this entire situation, where if you've had a positive case in your building, then your building is going to be sealed, and it's effectively the same control measures as a secondary close contact. Obviously, I mentioned that happened in my building recently. It's very assuring to hear that, I don't live in one of those old lane houses, and so it's very reassuring for me, at least, to hear that they won't be taking entire buildings out. I mean, in my building, there is about 100 apartments in here, and it's a lot of people to take out for one positive case. Obviously, as I mentioned last week, I had a positive case on my floor, so then that means that I would have been a close contact. But as one of our commenters mentioned, I noticed during the conversation, he says, I haven't seen my neighbor in 2 months. I haven't seen my neighbor in 6 months. And so we don't talk. So I have some neighbors that I talk to, but this particular neighbor, we don't have a relationship. And so, and so it's just like, so I'm glad to see that if that happens, that at least, I guess I'll stay in my apartment, but I won't have to actually be taken out of it. So that's good.
Yeah, no, it is good to hear. I did some research yesterday, and I saw that this isn't a new thing actually in China. Over the past 2 years, there have been policies in other cities, perhaps we just haven't heard about it, where entire floors would be taken to quarantine over one case, and also up and down, because they say that the pipes and airways can connect if you're directly above or below. So it just looks like Shanghai has lucked out in this instance, and they're not going to go forward with that policy, which I think is a good thing. Lots of comments coming in, including a question from Travel with Jean in China, who asked you, Alex, are there any new cases in your building?
So no, we had over the course of, I think, a 3 or 4 day period, which would have been about 10 days ago, maybe, I can't say exactly, but it was around there, where we had 2 cases on my floor, and then the next day we had another case up 2 floors above, and then later another case from that same apartment, a family member of the original people. But we haven't had any positives since then. We have gone down for PCR testing a couple of times twice over the last 2 days, and we're meant to go from red back to orange tomorrow if everyone comes back negative. So that means tomorrow we'll be able to not go outside the compound, but at least go downstairs. Folks will be able to, walk their dogs and pick up their packages, get a little exercise. I'm frankly a bit wary about doing that. And just from a personal perspective, because for me, I don't know, Andy, like at this point for me, going downstairs is great, but I feel like there is some sort of inherent risk of getting sent to a quarantine facility if I do that, because that's how my next door neighbors got quarantined. And I mean, if I don't know, my mindset at this point on day 40 is sort of like, I'm just kind of waiting for the city to go back to some sort of normalcy where I can not only, go downstairs, but go outside, maybe go to a supermarket. Maybe, I don't know how far away this is, but go to a restaurant, go and meet a friend, things like that, and if I can't really do that, then I'm not really super keen to to go out and about, just because I feel like the risk, the practical risk given the situation and the measures in place, sort of outweighs the reward for me. I'm kind of waiting to go back to having to being able to enjoy myself and not just go downstairs for a walk and come back upstairs. I feel like that's not really what I'm looking for. So I probably won't even do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I spoke with a friend today who lives with his mum, and actually she is terrified of catching COVID because of having to go to a quarantine site. So she's really, watching it. When they get in the elevator, they don't touch anything when they go down to take the rubbish out or whatever it is. So yeah, there's a lot of people worried about that. And actually, we do have some comments on the Shanghai Rubao WeChat.
We have.
Which says, we don't feel relieved at all, because I said before this news may make some people feel relieved. It's been 2 months. Fair point from Jesse. And Jesse also adds, we wouldn't need daily communication and rumor smashing of information if information was clear, consistent, and transparent. This is a complaint I've been seeing reoccurring across this whole situation here in Shanghai. There's a lot of people feel like the communication hasn't been up to scratch. So that's what we're trying to do with our show here. We hope you guys will tune in, where we try to cut through, read between the lines, and provide you guys with the latest info. But I would have to agree, there have been many instances where communications from the top haven't been clear enough, consistent enough, and transparent enough. I don't know what you think on that, Alex.
I mean, I agree. I think that issue has sort of been the genesis of a lot of these different rumors that are going around during a stressful situation for people, where people aren't sure what the future or what the immediate or even long-term future holds, or what's going to happen if A or B or C happens. That's sort of that's a factory for rumors. And I know that we don't, in China, rumors are frowned upon, and I understand why that's the case. And so I think in order to make sure that the rumor mill doesn't, slows down a bit, given how fast it's been spinning recently, as we all have seen, I think clarity is an important way to help do that. So here on our show, we're going to relay all the information in English that we find. Obviously, a lot of it comes in Chinese. We'll relay it. We'll turn it into English, our staff and the two of us as well, and try and get that information to you as soon as possible, so that you know which rumors to believe, which to not, and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a fair point. If there was more clear information and timely information from the top, we wouldn't have to be smashing rumors so often, because people would know there has to be a rumor, because otherwise we would have heard about it from the government. So I think a lot of room for improvement there. Tom Shanghai says, the worst thing is that there's no clear date when the measures will be eased. Unfortunately, Tom, that is an ongoing situation. I think we've learned on this show with our updates from Yang Jian, who takes part in the press conferences every day, that 3 days seems to be a magical number. So if you can manage to get zero community transmission in your xiaoqu, your compound, or your district, then you'll have less restrictions, apparently. Although, who knows? And also Shanghai in general, I think if the city's 16 districts can get no cases spread in the community in a 3-day period, there'll be also a lessening of restrictions. But again, it comes down to the communication issue we were talking about, and that I've just read out from Jesse's comment on Shine. I think room for improvement.
Yeah, I think what Tom says here is a thing that I think, we're going to address it a little bit later. We've got a really good video where Emma, our colleague, did a really good interview with a person regarding mental health and different things that are happening. I think, there are so many issues, as Tom mentioned here, things like businesses suffering, people losing their jobs, stuff like that. I think that's something that weighs heavy on the minds of everyone, even if it isn't exactly happening to you. There are so many different issues at play here. Some of them are happening to each individual person. Some people are affected more than others. And I think the interview that Emma did is another way of us to kind of cope with that and understand how to deal with it mentally, as far as what the situation is presenting to us right now. So I look forward to that video later on in the show.
Yeah, no, speaking of that, I did prepare a little card here about it. There's a new episode, like you just said, of Emma Leaning's mental series about compassion fatigue and emotional burnout. We're going to play that, like you said, later on in the show. Stephen Riley has made an interesting and fair point. The government doesn't know what's going to happen. They haven't been here before. this is true, obviously, to a degree. Every city has its own context, its own situation. So it is a new thing, even though COVID's been around for 2 years. There are obviously different contexts happening in Shanghai which haven't happened before. But I just think it's a fair comment to say that the communication could be a bit better. Lots of comments coming here. Minimalistic Apprentice said too many rumors floating around. I completely agree. Somebody else mentioned.
It is what it is.
Oh, hey, Alex, are you there? I think the connection. Sorry, you guys. The connection's really bad with Alex there. Alex, if you can hear me, can you refresh your connection and try to come in again? Somebody mentioned before that they know this is a show talking about the situation here in Shanghai. But if we could mention some other cities, we actually did have a comment from Travel with Jean in China, who is in Zhengzhou. He says he went out to the store to buy vegetables and other things today and spent about 800 kuai. So again, Zhengzhou, China, which is the capital city of Henan province, is under lockdown. I'll see if Alex... Oh no, Alex is gone. A lot of interesting comments coming in. Somebody says, to be honest, I have to say, Chinese people not that great at marketing or communication. This is very good at it, though. I don't think that's fair, to be honest. I think if you're looking for Chinese language communication, they're very good at it. Maybe if you're just looking for English information, it might be a bit hard to grab that information. But here, I'm going to bring up the graph, because I think graphs are actually quite a good way to see the situation. Here we have the current situation in Shanghai based on the latest numbers. So that is the numbers for yesterday, May 9. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the details here, but it did come down quite steeply yesterday. So we had a drop in cases, daily cases of nearly a quarter, actually, to be specific, 23.6%. So that may be because of some of the freezers that have been put on deliveries in some districts here in Shanghai. And if we move down, we see the community spread. So as you can see, only 5 asymptomatic cases were reported for yesterday in the community in Shanghai, and 0 symptomatic cases. And that comes from the total here were found inside a lockdown or controlled areas. I think Alex is back. I'm going to try and bring him in. Alex, how's it going now?
Good. Seems to be better.
Seems to be better.
All right.
I was just reading about these numbers here, found outside only 5 cases.
Right, outside of risky areas, or what is it, quarantine or lockdown areas, right? So that's outside of A, quarantine facilities, B, quarantine hotels, and C, lockdown areas where you're red people who are still locked in their apartments. That's the situation. That's where that 5 number comes from. A lot of people say, oh, well, we know that there are a lot more cases than just 5. Of course, there are, what is it, 2,000, whatever the number is today.
It's up here, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. About 3,000. Yeah, right around 3,000 now. And so, yeah, that's the number. But the 5 refers to people who are not under monitoring already. And so if that number gets down to 0, that is a positive
good thing. Exactly. And here are the districts. Like I mentioned before, Shanghai has 16 districts. You can see the white one, Jinshan, has obviously got to a very good place. That's why it's colored white there. And the deep purple areas are places, including my district there, Jing'an. And a lighter purple is like Alex's district, Putuo, which has technically achieved 0 community spread. So congratulations, Alex.
I guess. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I'm just gonna again. I think it's a good sign. Any lower numbers are obviously a good sign, but I personally am opting to withhold my optimism until life approaches something resembling not totally. I mean, I understand, and I think everyone here, everyone in Shanghai does understand that it will take some time for us to return to the kind of normal lives, or at least not pre-COVID, but pre-current outbreak, where we were back in January or February of this year, or pretty much during, starting in the summer of 2020, really, China, where we were from the summer of 2020 up until about February of this year, where lockdowns were extremely sporadic and cases were very low, and so we were able to pretty much enjoy almost every normal sort of fun thing, not everything, but most things that we could do, and just live our normal lives. And so I'm going to withhold my my ultimate optimism until we can get somewhere back closer to that before I get excited, because a life where I can literally go to the office, the bank, the supermarket, and that's it is not really awesome. But we'll see how it goes.
No, I totally agree. And of course, the future is only something we can discover later on. What do they say? The future's not mine to see. Que sera, sera. So we have to wait and see, obviously. Hey, I'm going to play our first video, Alex, which is actually taken inside one of the Fangtang Yiyuan, which is a makeshift hospital quarantine site in Minhang district, where they've arranged for students to take online classes with the help of some local schools. So let's check that out, and then we'll come back and have a chat.
我们弄了点数字油画，都是我们学生自己画的。
好的，好的。
在方舱那个教室里，
我们接到这个通知到筹备到现在就短短的2个小时时间。有一些东西是我们学校里储备的物资，还有一些呢是我们老师捐赠了一些玩具，还有一些书籍。我是徐泽电瓶车一家一户去拿来的。
我们的方舱里的学生，他的年龄段就是从幼儿园开始一直覆盖到小学、中学。从中午我们发出这样的一个求助以后，下午基本上他们的物资还有一些课程都已经开始准备起来了。
所有为小朋友准备的物资到了以后，都会安装进去。这个呢是我们用来做学龄前小朋友的房间，这个呢是我们低年龄的同学这个学习的房间，这个呢是我们专门毕业班的同学准备的，相对来说比较幽静安静的单独学习的房间。现在我们共同努力，就是为了尽快复工复学。
Nice. I have to keep saying, as we've said before, I would kind of feel a bit bummed out if I was being made to study while in the Fangtang Yiyuan. What about you, Alex?
I agree. I mean, I think, you can look at it in two ways. Obviously, it's good to see that the students are able to continue their studies, despite the difficult situation that they're placed in. No kid wants to do their homework, especially when they're in a tough situation like that. But I do think it is good to see that at least those resources are available. I know parents in China and in Shanghai especially are super conscientious about their kids' education, and so I think it's good that even though they might be in really tough situations for the time being, that it's good to see that at least the parents' concerns can be allayed on that front.
Yeah, I just hope it's optional and not mandatory. I doubt it's mandatory, but yeah, it would be like I said, it'd be a bit of a bummer to be forced to study. And as we saw the other day, the Gaokao has been postponed. So I think people can relax a bit, try to heal. I think if you're, mind you, those people are not showing any symptoms, so maybe they don't have much to get over health-wise. But yeah, here's the weather. ZDJ asked, how was the weather today? There you go, 20 degrees. Fahrenheit, about 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. Nice weather, clear, not too hot. I know you don't like the hot weather either, Alex.
I don't. Well, 68 Celsius would be a problem, but no, no, I'm just messing with you. No, I don't like the hot. I do like the warmer weather. Again, it doesn't really make too much of a difference to me right now being stuck inside like this. So I don't really care if it's 40 or if it's 4, but I guess my thing that I've been saying, and I said it earlier on the show, is just that I almost prefer that the weather is dreary and bleak right now, because for me personally, there's nothing I love more than a nice 28 degrees, sunny, 28, 29 degree day, sunny, blue skies. It's the time when I like to go outside, go to the park and things like that, stuff that isn't available for us right now. And so at least if the weather is like it is today, in the high teens, low 20s, overcast, at least I don't feel like I'm missing out on any.
Yeah, but I do feel like I'm missing out in this kind of weather, because I really love walking outside in this cool weather where I'm not going to sweat. So, but it is really nice to have the windows open and have the breeze blowing through when it's not too hot, which is right now for me, perfect temperature. The Quantum Alchemist has said in Germany it's hot, cloudy, and humid, 25 to 26. And again, I see that's personal opinion because 25 to 26 is pretty good to me.
Yeah, I like it even a little bit warmer than that. Of course, where I'm from, the weather is always that warm or warmer. But yeah, I prefer nice sunny blue sky, warm days. But again, today wasn't one of those days. So in my opinion, anyway, we didn't miss out on a whole lot. You can see in our live shot here of Lujiazui in Pudong, the financial hub, and the home of all of Shanghai's famous skyscrapers, most of Shanghai's famous skyscrapers. There, that it is overcast and that's kind of the weather that we've had throughout the day today.
Sorry, I'm just being attacked, Alex, by me. Basil Jen is sitting underneath and attacking me.
Yep.
Yeah,
that is fast as
it is Lujiazui. No, 你下去. It's hard being a parent. Hey, what I'll do now is chuck on our next video where notes. Delivery firms resuming now. These kind of videos I'm always a little bit wary about because unless you can see the effect in real life, then these kind of mean nothing. And a lot of the time they do feel a bit, I don't know, I don't want to say the word sugar-coated, but I will. They feel kind of out of touch with reality, but I'll play it anyway. We'll
talk about it, and I'll give some of my thoughts about it as well. Let's see.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, no, I think it's good. Obviously, the situation right now on May 10th is much better than it was on April 10th or April 5th. That's when really when a lot of us were feeling the crunch when our supplies, because we obviously originally thought that we didn't. Let me just put it this way: we didn't think that we would be locked down for 40 or more days, and so we didn't have supplies on hand to prepare for that. And with the delivery systems and logistics still in a state of shock and shut down, it was really hard for people to get the stuff they needed. I know so a lot of people are still having difficulty, but I do also know that I have personally been able to get. I've even got a couple of things on Ultima from convenience stores, which was shut down throughout the majority of this. Jingdong deliveries, even some that have come from outside of Shanghai city limits. I've got some Jingdong deliveries from Kunshan. And so it took them a long time to get here, but they did get here, and so I think. There may be some merit to this, to them sort of kicking some of the delivery and logistics back into gear. Obviously, it isn't nearly what it normally is when you can get anything from anywhere immediately, practically. Yeah. But let's check out the video, and then I guess I also think that there might be sort of a bit of a delayed effect because obviously the things that people have been waiting for aren't all going to get delivered on the first day that any sort of delivery route or service gets kicked back up. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's check out the video. But first, I want to read a really funny comment because we just did a kind of weather report. Someone in the WeChat, Matthew says, weather reports are what make this show so good. So a bit of sarcasm there. Thank you, Matthew. Happy to bring you the weather while you're locked inside. But anyway, enough of that. Here's that video, and we'll chat about it when we come back.
然后当天的这些上岗的人员呢，我们会把这些名单统一收集到公司那边，就是3个要求，一个是有48小时的核酸，然后24小时的抗原，然后健康码是绿色的。
根据上海邮政管理局的这个复工复产的指引，那么我们是严格执行场地闭环管理，那么对我们的这个进港的这个车辆啊，然后实行全方位的消杀工作。
So there you have it. Some logistics services back up and running. Obviously, some safety measures they've got in place there. Like you said, Alex, it's I'm a bit pessimistic about it, but you've received some goods, even stuff like Shanghai, which is awesome.
A few things, not nearly a very small percentage of all the things I ordered. Obviously, about a month ago, right before and then during the first week of lockdown, I was online ordering. I was on there like crazily buying all sorts of different things, buying all kind of different stuff, the majority of which I didn't get But they are sort of slowly starting to trickle in, at least at the beginning of this month, beginning of May. I have gotten a sort of a steady flow of those things that I ordered 4, 5, and 6 weeks ago, finally starting to show up on my doorstep, which, is encouraging, at least in a relative sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is definitely in a relative sense, because obviously, like you said before, it's absolutely nothing like before, obviously. Hey, we got a comment here from Du Hua who said, we can get almost anything now. I even got some art supplies within a few days. That is awesome, especially in terms of having something to do while you're under lockdown. Awesome to hear. Travel with Jean, he is in Zhengzhou. He said, I did a food order the other day. It arrived earlier than expected. My Taobao orders are coming soon, and I don't see long delay. So that's awesome to see. The situation is good.
Yeah, over there, and he's in Henan. We talked with him a few days ago. He's in Henan province in Zhengzhou City, which is also entering a lockdown. Now, I'm not sure exactly the details of that lockdown and how it may or may not compare to what's been happening here. But hopefully, for his sake and for everyone's sake out there, that they are able to access stuff that they want to get a little bit easier than we were, at least at the beginning of our lockdown, because it did get a little bit hairy there for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, the situation doesn't end up like Shanghai. Hey, we have a lot of comments on the WeChat group about my kitties. She's run away, but this is actually a teddy bear of the cat that was just attacking me underneath. Attacking, I say attacking, she's just playing, but she has strong claws. And this is Yaya, who's a bit better behaved. She's sitting next to me now. But yeah, cute kitties. It's good to have some company at home, because Alex, I'm at home alone. So you said it's day 40. It's fine for me. Kitty. It's fine for me because I'm quite introverted, but I know you're quite extroverted, but you're with 2 others, so that's all good.
That's true. Although, obviously when you're with your significant other locked in the same house for a really long time, we've been doing all right. I don't want to put her on blast. Like we've been doing fine. But, I can create some sort of, petty bickering and things like that here and there, but we're doing fine, fortunately. But yeah, no, I really do. I have a really strong friend group here in the city, both international community and locals as well. And it's, I guess that's one of the things that I've been missing, is the chance to sort of hang out and have a drink, or just sort of, I like to throw darts, or, shoot some pool, or play some games, or go to the park. And we have a lot of different activities that we like to do that we're unable to do. We have been, and I encourage anyone who is an extrovert like me and who's got a strong friend group here in Shanghai. I'm sure a lot of you are doing this, but get on a WeChat call, get on a Zoom call, video chat with friends. They're still here. We're all still here, even if we can't actually hang out together, but there have been some good events that some people in our groups have organized, some quizzes, some other sort of, just playing some games together on the internet, or even sometimes just talking and sort of, sometimes venting, sometimes changing the subject to talk about other things that are happening wherever in the world. And so it's been really helpful for me to stay in touch with my friends here in the city, just so that we all sort of know, we're all still here, we're all still in lockdown, but it does make me feel a little bit like it's not quite the same as sitting at their house or them coming to mine, but it's the next best thing, I guess, given the situation.
It is good. No, I do keep in constant touch with people, but thankfully I don't need to go see anybody at the moment, so it's actually quite good for me, because I actually sometimes, this sounds really rude, but I love my friends and stuff, but sometimes I find it can be quite taxing mentally. So it's really cool in the lockdown to not have to make up excuses to not see people. But anyway, hopefully they're not watching right now. And what I'm going to do next is play Emma's new video. She's done a new video in her mental in lockdown series, which is actually really important for people's mental health. Today she's discussing what was it? Compassion, fatigue, and emotional burnout. Sounds deep. Let's check it out. And then when we come back, I know you have lots to say about it, Alex.
Definitely. Let's find out what she means by that.
You can't carry everybody's suffering all of the time. I spoke to Sabina Fan from United Family Healthcare about compassion fatigue and how to avoid overload.
Hi, Sabine.
Hi, Emma.
So today you wanted to talk about compassion fatigue. What is compassion fatigue?
When you are basically investing in too much energy, or you're hearing too much about the pain and suffering of people around you, then there comes a point that you may start to feel exhausted from that. So it's kind of like an emotional burnout. People may end up having really graphic images of other people going through a difficult situation. Usually, people may get hyper fixated on such problems or such situations. It becomes difficult to focus on anything good that is even, happening around you. And what is worse is that many times people then start feeling guilty of not being able to do more. So that's the time that we have to be consciously aware of what's happening to us and actually try to take a bit control of ourselves. If we are not there for ourselves, we cannot be there for other people as well.
Will this compassion fatigue lift as lockdown lifts?
I don't think that, the lockdown lift up will immediately reverse that. These are the things that keep coming back to one's mind, even when the situation is over. So there's a lot of things that can be done in order to avoid going into the compassion, fatigue. It could just start with very simple things, paying attention to what you eat. Try to get enough sleep. It's perfectly okay to take some breaks. No need to feel guilty about that. And I just want to share the concept of an empower hour. We can save, things that we feel are important for us to be read. And it's also important to stay informed about the situation. But that, we could have this empower hour maybe on a Sunday afternoon. We could go over all the necessary stuff that we need to update ourselves. So that way we can have some blocks of time dedicated for that, but that we are not overloading ourselves constantly with information. And, basically be with a group of people who are maybe more or less going through similar experiences, so people can share and learn from each other how to cope. And usually such groups are also guided by a professional where they might share some useful coping tools as well.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
At this moment, I think you might be aware, one of my colleagues, Bojun, she is actually running a support group. It's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. There is one English session and one Chinese session, 1 hour each. And Pudong Hospital is offering free one counseling session. And I'm sure there are a lot of other great resources around the city as well.
Thank you, Sabine. It's been such a joy talking to you.
Likewise, Emma. Thank you so much for having me today.
Pleasure. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alex, what are your thoughts?
All right, yeah, I mean, I think that she makes a good point. It's important to be compassionate for the struggles of others. As we know, there are a lot of people that are having a tough time in the city, but it can become too much. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I've always been somebody who values compassion, not just for people that I know or for people even in my city, but for people around the world, but we can't fix all the problems in the world. And we all know that that's obvious, but we can't feel guilty about it, especially when we're in a tough situation. I mean, I can't even leave my front door right now, so it's hard for me to do a whole lot other than, just maybe here and there trying to give people advice, or obviously we're trying to help people out on our show and things like that. But, I think it's important, especially given that we're facing hard times ourselves, to not become overwhelmed with sort of guilt for the fact that we can't help others. I've always been sort of somebody who's big on, for example, the wealthy in society, kind of giving back to society. That's sort of where I stand ideologically on that. But I'm not a billionaire. I can't fix this problem. So, you know what I mean? I think that we all need to sort of understand that we can't do everything ourselves to fix this, even if we do feel a lot of compassion. I think it's important that we fix ourselves and that we make sure that we're in a good place emotionally and mentally, and then we can sort of start to see what we can do to help out others.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very important. It's like when you're on a plane and they're doing the safety briefing, with the oxygen mask, put your own mask on first before you help others. I think it's a really important, a really good point, Alex. Got some comments here I want to quickly share. So Fiery Heart said, it sounds like what I'm going through. Tough to hear that. Hopefully you can get through it. If you're in Shanghai and you saw in the video just now, Fiery Heart, there are some resources you can get at Pudong Hospital and so on. I'll try to bring up that frame there, some more information for you in case you need some help. Also, the Quantum Alchemist says, I was about to say, sounds similar to Burnout. Had it once, not a nice experience. I thought I was getting a heart attack. Luckily, my heart and arteries were okay. It was just massive stress. Yeah, it's definitely something you need to pay attention to. Now, mental issues oftentimes can come through with physical symptoms, so it can be quite dangerous. It's important to really look after yourself, which is what we're hoping people can get in touch with the right people through Emma's series, Mental in Lockdown. And there again, some information on screen. Do you remember which hospitals she said, Alex?
I don't remember. I didn't hear that detail.
I tell you what you guys can do is head along to shine.cn, which is the official website of Shanghai Daily. And I'm sure Emma's article will be up there for you to check out and find all the details. But Emma, thanks so much for your latest video. I just want to quickly go to a few comments on our WeChat group. Shane Zhu Ye says, your show is helpful. You guys do a great job. Appreciate the work you put in. Thank you so much for watching, Shane. You guys watching really makes it all worthwhile. Kara D says, you both are also empathetic, which is very important. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kara, for watching. Sarah Robinson asked, can you explain what a silent lockdown is? I can, actually. That comes from the word jingmo, which means observe silence. It just, as far as I can make out, relates to deliveries and people going in and out of a compound. So if your compound or your shelter is currently under a jingmo qi, is it jingmo period?
I just thought jingmo, but presumably qi meaning time period. Jingmo qi.
Yeah, it just means you can't receive deliveries and no one can come in or out for any reason. Right. So we've heard, we haven't heard anything official, but some people have received notices from their Juwei saying that they will be observing 2 or 3 days of silence. I guess that's where it comes from. It just means no deliveries will be accepted. People can't go in and out. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I understand it as well, that it relates to deliveries and other things. I think that there are a lot of concerns and maybe even some uncertainties even at this point about exactly how this particular variant of the virus is spread. And so I think we have seen, how should we say this, an abundance of caution throughout this entire process in a lot of different ways. And I think this is just maybe another example of that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, sorry, I got cut out there for a minute. Hey, Alex, do you have anything else you want to add? That's all we have for today, but anything else?
For today, like I said, I'm looking forward to my compound turning hopefully from red back to orange tomorrow, although I don't think that I'm going to actually personally take advantage of that because it seems just like, potential risk for very minimal reward in my opinion. So I think I might just stay at home and try and ride this out for a little bit longer. But again, it's progress, and progress of any kind is welcome, at least in my mind right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, and I think it's an approach a lot of people are taking. They're just choosing to stay at home, remove the risk totally from catching COVID and having to go into lockdown. So it's a good idea. I heard just before, I want to mention, we've heard some rumors going around, obviously nothing confirmed, but that the city may be aiming for zero community transmission by the 15th, around about. So that may be why we're seeing a lot of these jingmo, a lot of these silent periods being put into place. So let's see over the next few days. Obviously, Alex, you're not going to weigh in because you don't want to get your hopes up. But I'm hoping, as we saw, today is the 10th. The cases went down about a quarter from yesterday. If that continues, we'd be right on track. So something to look forward to, maybe. We'll see. But
let's hope.
Yeah, and in any case, we'll see you guys again tomorrow, same time, same place, 7:30 p.m. here we're actually broadcasting on a few places now. Just come back to wherever you're watching now. And anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.